Desert Diaries. Week 30. Hello, Arizona calling. And it's Thanksgiving week. It's the very start of the holiday season, and definitely the one day that pretty much everyone in America rushes back to their family home to be with their nearest and dearest. The very first Thanksgiving was celebrated by the Pilgrims after their first harvest in the New World in 1621. It was a massive feast that apparently lasted 3 days. It's about the length of time my husband plans to be eating this year. And it was apparently attended by just over 50 pilgrims and 90 Native Americans. Now, it's obviously not something that's in my culture and heritage to celebrate, but because of the signs in all the shops and the people wishing me a happy Thanksgiving everywhere I go, I've been thinking a lot this week about being thankful and grateful and recognising that at times, actually, that's really hard. I always try and be really honest with you, but there are things I just haven't felt able to share over the last 6 months or so, mainly concerning an absolutely horrendous experience that we've had with the people letting our family home. Even talking about it now makes me anxious. If you follow me on social media at WalkerSam on Twitter, you may have had a small idea this week of the absolutely horrific mess that they have left in our home after leaving, owing us a lot of money in rent. Do you know what? The worst thing is, I don't think they could ever really afford to rent the house in the first place. They both actually failed their credit checks, but because they were the family of a friend of ours, they begged and pleaded and said it was a mistake and, well, I feel such an idiot. I feel such a mug. But in all the stress of moving, we fell for it, which meant we waived all our rental insurance, and they knew that. The complaints and schemes to get out of paying rent started on day 3 of their tenancy, and it went from bad to worse. It's just horrendous to think that people can treat you so badly after you have done them such a favour and also gambled your financial stability, put your only asset in their hands, and they treat you like that. It's literally one of the worst things I've ever been through. I do have stories about their behaviour that would make your toes curl, but I need to move on. But whilst that's been cripplingly stressful, I'm also really overwhelmed by my wonderful friends and neighbours who gave up their whole weekend to clear the junk out of my house and start the big clean-up. I literally do not know what I would have done without them. And despite being on our second skipful, we're getting there, and I'm sending them so much thanks and love. Obviously, my mum's diagnosis has been awful to deal with this year as well, and really hard to feel positive about. But the time that I got to spend with her on our Up Yours lung cancer road trip, I'll just never forget it. And for those weeks, I'm also really, really thankful. As I mentioned last week, for our first proper Thanksgiving, we ended up hosting, luckily not 50 pilgrims and 90 Native Americans. I frankly haven't got enough chairs, but just 2 people, our friend Brian and his daughter Gabrielle. We met them really early on, actually, after moving here. The very first week we arrived, walking the dog through the park near to our first house. Gabrielle's dog Lucy barked at our dog Juno when we got chatting when I heard their accents. And in It's Such a Small World territory, it turns out they lived until recently in Prestwich. I know. It's what are the odds? Just a few miles from where we were. Brian and his wife Diane first came to Phoenix more than 20 years ago and totally fell in love with it. They bought a flat about 15 years ago, and especially after their daughter moved from Manchester to LA, they came out more and more, eventually spending half the year here and half back in Manchester. It was their dream to make Phoenix their permanent home, and after endless paperwork and green cards and selling their family home and shipping all the belongings, they did it, arriving in a really lovely area called McCormick Ranch in September last year. Not many people get to fulfil their dreams, but they did. And then in March this year, Diane died of ovarian cancer, which to me just seems so horribly cruel. I'm really sad I never got to meet her because I know she must have been a lovely woman. But I'm really glad she did get to live her dream, albeit for a short time. And I'm really thankful to have Brian and Gabrielle in our family's lives now. They've been really great friends since we made this crazy move, and we feel very lucky to know them. I suppose that's what life's about, seeking out the good in bad times and being grateful for what we have. So happy Thanksgiving, and I'll see you in the desert. once again, I want to thank you so much for listening to my Desert Diaries. And if you've left me a review on Apple Podcasts or tweeted your followers about my little podcast, then please know that it really totally does make my day. I had a little gasp the other day when I saw that I had over 100 reviews. I told the dog and she was very impressed. Well, she kind of half opened one eye. I'm taking that as absolutely thrilled. But seriously, thank you so much. You really do make me dead happy. If you haven't done it yet, go on. I'll buy you a cactus juice when you're next in town. No, that really is a thing.